This is a story that I somehow missed, and I don't know how I missed it because it is right in my wheelhouse as far as the kind of stories that I tend to pay attention to. But it just, I'm not a big news watcher, and so somehow this just escaped my attention. But I'd like to talk about it now, and apologies if you already know about it. I didn't know about it before this morning. And somehow I became clued into it. This is a story about eBay, the huge Silicon Valley firm, eBay, and so I guess that hair is just part of the screen. Okay, now let's go. Sorry about that. So eBay was involved in this massive scandal in which a couple who was basically writing an online newsletter just got harassed and gang stalked because eBay didn't like some of the things that they were saying in their online newsletter. This was just like a mom and pop operation, commenting on, I don't know, the commerce, online commerce goings on and so forth. And they ran afoul of eBay, and eBay decided we're going to make them pay for what for daring to get on our bad side. So this was the aftermath. This all apparently went down in 2019, and these lower level executives, these lower level workers for eBay were actually sentenced in 2022, September of 2022. But the CEO and the vice president, who also played a role in what was happening, there were texts that showed that, or texts or emails, I'm not sure which it was, that showed that the CEO at the time, David Wenig, and also the vice president of eBay at the time, that they were actively involved in this campaign, but nothing happened to them. They had to step down, but they were absolutely fine after that, no problem. And as we'll see, there's more to the story, even than what we're shown by the Lugan Press, which I'm reading from now. This is from CNBC, an outpost of the Lugan Press. 2 former eBay executives were given prison time Thursday. This is again September of last year, for their involvement in the cyberstalking scheme that targeted a couple behind an e-commerce blog that was perceived as critical of the company. James Baugh, eBay's former senior director of safety and security, in charge of safety and security. You'll see why I'm scoffing at that in a minute, but when you find out what kind of stuff he and his cronies were up to, was sentenced to almost 5 years in prison, while eBay's former director of global resiliency, boy, love that corporate speak, David Harville, was given 2 years behind bars. Both pleaded guilty. Harville and a number of other executives hatched a campaign to harass Ina and David Steiner, the editor and publisher of E-Commerce Bytes, a website closely followed by online sellers. Prosecutors said the executives went after the couple after former eBay CEO David Wenig and other leaders inside the company were enraged by their coverage of the company. Okay, here's what they did. You've heard things about gang stalking, you've heard things about people who claim to be TIs or targeted individuals. And sometimes, they're just disturbed people, who are maybe schizophrenic and, paranoid and seeing things that aren't really there. But I think in many cases, many cases, they're not crazy at all, and they're reporting the truth of what's happening to them, and this is certainly one of those cases. So what followed was a bizarre and convoluted 3-part harassment campaign intended to intimidate the Steiners and influence their reporting. Okay, so here's the sort of things that they did. They reportedly sent a couple harassing and threatening messages on Twitter. The campaign escalated further when the Steiners began to receive disturbing deliveries to their home outside of Boston, including a book on surviving the death of a spouse, a bloody pig mask, a fetal pig, a funeral wreath, and live insects, namely cockroaches. Imagine getting sent live cockroaches in the mail. Imagine getting a fetal pig and a bloody pig mask in the mail. Okay. Additionally, Craigslist posts appeared online inviting strangers to experience sexual encounters at the victim's home. They were also invited to join, various depraved, Satanist groups and swinging singles groups and all kinds of things. They just got hit, with all these invitations to join groups they would never want to be a part of. Harville and others, this goes further, also traveled from California to the Steiners' home to surveil the couple. They hoped to install a GPS tracker on the couple's vehicle. I didn't even know about this part. Wow. 5 other eBay employees pleaded guilty to conspiracy in this matter. The defendant's toxic brand of online real-world harassment, threats, and stalking was outrageous, cruel, and defies any explanation, all the more because these men were seasoned and highly paid executives backed by the resources of a Fortune 500 company. So the prosecution, their behavior was reprehensible. At the time of this, eBay didn't respond to a request for comment. Spokesperson for Wenig, the CEO at the time, said, blah, blah, he didn't know what was going on. He had no idea. But the texts or the emails from Wenig show that he said something like, let's get him. I don't know if there's anything more about it here. No. Let's see. So ex-eBay's CEO's inappropriate messages played role in ouster. And we're going to find out more about Mr. Wenig in a minute. Something that'll tie this all up in a nice little bow for y'all. So y'all look forward to that. Anyway, for now, former CEO left eBay in September of 2019, shortly after the discovery of an alleged stalking campaign. So people were following them around, again, making threatening phone calls, making threatening texts and emails, and harassing them, and sending bugs, sending cockroaches and fetal pig masks, and saying how to survive the death of a spouse, implying that that something bad was going to happen to one of them, and the other was going to be left behind, bereaved. Psychological warfare. Plain and simple, straight up. That's what this was. And this is the kind of stuff that has been studied on the highest levels. This is like military intelligence stuff. I'm not saying these eBay employees or the CEO were necessarily linked to military intelligence, although, as we'll see in a second, this guy, Devin Wenig, is he's got some dubious connections. Anyway, 6 eBay employees, including directors in the company, were indicted by the Department of Justice for allegedly leading a cyber stalking campaign. I mean, thankful that the DOJ actually was pursuing J as in justice here, as opposed to their behavior much of the time. The alleged stalking I guess that means that there's some good people, there's some white hats, maybe working in some feds who aren't that bad, but probably not many. The alleged stalking campaign included sending anonymous threatening messages to the publisher and her husband and mailing them disturbing deliveries. We've already talked about that. Yes, and then there was a text message from the president, from the CEO, saying that it was time to take down the publisher of this online journal, this online e-commerce journal. So nothing happened to them. The company also noted the internal investigation examined what role, if any, CEO Winning may have played. They say that Winning's communications, like saying to take them down, and I think they use even more colorful language about this couple that had gotten on their bad side, and also I remember seeing there's actually a 60 Minutes piece on this story, and an attorney for the couple actually said that Wenig and the vice president, who's not named here for some reason, the bigwigs who were encouraging this harassment campaign, that they both deleted all of their email and text communications once they got notice that there was an investigation going on. But nothing came of that. I mean, that's like, obstruction of justice. But nothing came of it, of course, because they like we so often see, they get the low-hanging fruit, but the bigwigs remain unmolested. Okay, so so Winnick stepped down in September 2019 in a surprise announcement. He attributed his departure at the time to a number of considerations, and appointed somebody else to be the new CEO. Okay, so let's find out who this David Wenig is. Devin Wenig. There he is. Devin Wenig, President and Chief Executive Officer, eBay Incorporated. That's old. Ha ha ha! But what have we here? What website is this that's claiming Devin Wenig as one of their own? None other than the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Yes, sir. Okay. So Devin Wenig is eBay's president and CEO. No, he's not anymore. It's amazing how the WEF does not update their update these things. There was a real shoddiness about them, seeing as how they rule the world and stuff, and wield enormous power. Anyway, so what's actually his position with Devin Wenig? What's it? There's all this stuff about what he was at eBay, but what's his? He's a sports fan, runner, amateur coder, and art enthusiast. Oh, isn't that wonderful? So he serves as a board of directors of General Motors, co-chair of the governors of the Consumers Industries. Okay, here we go. He's a co-chair of the governors of the Consumer Industries for the World Economic Forum and a member of the Business Council. So he's one of them. Remember the other day how I told y'all about how one of the guys who was on board the doomed submersible, one of the billionaires, a man of mixed Pakistani and English background, was actually a WEF member. Here's another one. another one who was involved in this campaign to harass these this couple that was running this, again, popular but not very powerful website, and they subjected them to all kinds of mental cruelties and so forth. But this guy, big enough to get away with it. And what do you know? He's a World Economic Forum guy. He's a WEF guy. You will own nothing and be happy. And he was arguably conducting this campaign of harassment. These employees weren't just doing this stuff on their own. He said we need to get them. He said we need to make them pay. And so they were doing it at his direction. They were behaving the way they were behaving. They were doing the things they were doing, sending cockroaches, sending fetal pig masks, sending threatening messages, implying your wife or your husband's going to die, and here's a funeral wreath, and all kinds of things like that. Wanting to follow them around, wanting to put a tracker on their car. In fact, they did follow them around. That was another thing that was reported by the couple. That was what actually led to the unraveling of this whole case, as you'll see if you watch the 60 Minutes piece. But I just think it's interesting that somebody who conducts this kind of campaign against an innocent couple who just wants to write about e-commerce and maybe had some slightly unflattering things to say about a mass conglomerate like eBay. So there's a lot to be critical of, but these guys don't like to be criticized. They feel entitled to receive only good press, especially from such peons as those who dwell beneath them. Those who will own nothing and be happy, right? World Economic Forum. So there you go. Pretty shocking story, but then why should it be shocking? It's the way the world works. Let me know your thoughts below if you have any, and thank you for watching.